So everything is HBO Max. So the announcement came that HBO Max will be releasing their slate of films scheduled for 2021, the summer movie going time, which thanks to 2020 and the lockdown, there really isn't a summer movie period anymore. And everything has changed. But at the meantime, HBO Max was something they were banking huge on. But it's all about content and what you need for that to draw people in. So a lot about what the deal is with Netflix was, of course, of all the original programming they had. So it was, must see, and so it would bring in the subscribers. So what do you put on there? So, of course, the big example would be for Disney Plus is The Mandalorian, which, if you can believe their numbers, at least they released something, has done very well for them. I don't know that it overall saves in fact, my opinion is it can't restore Star Wars to what it once was. It can make something new of its own within Star Wars and become very popular. The show I like, it's good, but I don't think it's this great masterpiece. But nevertheless, it appears to have performed the way they want it to, and so you can expect quite a bit of expansion out of Mandalorian, with rumors of a Boba Fett miniseries, Cara Dune getting her own show, and all that stuff. More than likely, what would happen for HBO Max going into it, they must have thought that the Game of Thrones franchise would spawn all these spinoffs, and that was the plan. But then Game of Thrones pooped the bed on its way out, and reports of the I guess it was a pilot or maybe a film, I can't remember which, was all very woke and feminist and all this sort of stuff. And they realized, oh crap. They didn't. So I don't know if that thing will ever be released. And there's supposed to be this other prequel series. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know. The other project that they thought looked like could succeed HBO Max, Game of Thrones, was Westworld. It had one good season, and then it pooped the bed. So right now, they're highly dependent on Snyder Cut. Well, I'll get to that later. But here's the slate. So the ones I'm interested in, the films of Suicide Squad, most notably Matrix 4. I don't know. I think Matrix ended its story, and that's it. Dune. There's a huge fandom for Dune because of the novels, and it's had many attempts of making that and adapting it. There was the David Lynch film, which I actually liked, but I can see why it didn't. It bombed too, because it's a rather difficult film, and of course there's different cuts and all that. So there's a new one coming, and it was supposed to go into theaters, but well, I guess it'll be in some theaters, but for the most part, it will be HBO Max, and we'll see how that works out. I wasn't even sure I wanted to see it or not, but well, I'm a subscriber, so I'll watch it. Godzilla vs. Kong will be on there, and that's the type of movie that you want to see in a theater. So, if you get the opportunity, I would recommend it, but if not, it will be on HBO Max. Space Jam: A New Legacy. Well, I have no interest in that whatsoever. Little Things, Judas and the Black Messiah, Tom and Jerry. Oh boy, Tom and Jerry. Mortal Kombat, Those Who Wish Me Dead. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Hadn't heard about The Conjuring in a while. I've seen those films. I kind of enjoy them, mostly for mood and atmospherics, which I don't think is enough to carry it, but it has been a successful franchise, and it is a shared universe, interestingly enough. The only other one that's successful, the other one that's successful, of course, is Marvel, which is leaps and bounds ahead of what Conjuring has, but still, Conjuring is successful. In the Heights, Reminisce, Malignant, The Many Saints of Newark, King Richard, and Cry Macho. So if you were interested in those films, you can subscribe to HBO Max and see them in 2021. Notably, The Batman is not mentioned, but I'm not sure if that one really has a shot at being a 2021 film. I don't even know. Maybe they've already pushed it to 2022, but odds are, yeah, that'll be on HBO Max as well. So this is the situation they're in, but it comes at a convergence of what HBO Max needs, and that's content. So like I said, they could have banked a lot on Game of Thrones, but they can't anymore. And so now that leaves Snyder Cut. And of course, as much as I was a big supporter of release the Snyder Cut and wanting that, and then it happened, which is the reason why I subscribed to HBO Max. I said, I felt if they do that, if they do that release, I'll sign up. Of course, I have to wait a long time to see it, and that's the problem for them. The excitement and hype for it can drive subscriptions, but I don't think so far it's done it to where they need it. The guess is it's like 8 million. Yeah, I need to do a lot more than that. And I don't know exactly what their own internal projections are for what they want, but this places an awful lot of burden on the Snyder Cut that is beyond which it might be able to achieve. So Snyder Cut could be good. It could be very enjoyable, and people really like it. The fandom, the built-in fandom, is going to cheer it. But can it bring in other people saying, yeah, that's pretty good. I liked it better than the other one. And all that stuff. But is it enough to say, oh, man, I got to see more of this? It's whatever that number is that it has to hit for them. And then immediately they'll start announcing other projects, the potential for further Justice League films or miniseries, I guess, in this point, for Zack Snyder's storyline that he had set up from his original plan going forward. And then, of course, maybe Batman and Man of Steel and all that stuff could come out of it for HBO Max, and they would go forward. But if it doesn't meet what they want, it might just, everything will go quiet. Snyder Cut will be there, Zack Snyder's Justice League and all that, but that might be pretty much the end of it. But I rather doubt it. I think some of this stuff is going to get greenlit anyway because they need the content. But it's how far would it go if it's not producing? Because at some point you got to pull the plug on it and try something else. So to bolster that, all these movies coming to HBO Max can also help that for people who really want to see these films, and now they can. Of course, it opens them up to pirating and all that sort of stuff. So there's a loss they're going to take because they can no longer depend on the theater model. Meanwhile, the theater model, how will it return? We don't know. It will not be like it was for years, because even with restrictions lifted, you're still going to have people that are nervous about it. And in some cases should, even though, of course, there's a, 99.95 or 97% survival rate. And even amongst people in their 70s, it's like 95% survival rate. So it's not as big as the hysteria makes it out to be, but it is for certain groups, the people with compromised immune systems, certain conditions, diabetes, and of course the elderly. It would have to think very long and hard about wanting to go to a theater. And so that's understandable, but it creates this limit. So even when you come back, it's not going to be the same amount. Plus, there are theaters that can't. They're done. They couldn't survive this long lockdown for their business. So whatever their projections, you can throw all the models and maps out the window. They don't really know what they can make out of it. And at this point, they can't hold this stuff indefinitely, and they've got to release it. To make some amount of profit on it. It won't be what it could have been, but they've got to finagle and find ways to do this, build hype, get subscribers, and to be sure, I think they will still be releasing Blu-rays of this stuff, and to pick up some cash there too. But the old box office theater model is gone for now. There's going to be problems going forward about the theater franchises being very upset about this, but at the same time, what do you do? And streaming wars still ongoing, and HBO Max should be a bigger player than it is at the moment. But their rollout has not been that great. They didn't have all the services for people to watch it with, and they still have to establish for international audiences to get that going, and also just the confusion about the other services they already had with HBO Go and Now and all that, creates all kind of problems. So some form of this was probably going to happen even if the lockdown was pretty minimal and was already long over. But at some point, movies were going to be released on streaming a lot sooner than usual. Now, with Wonder Woman being the first one, I think that's going to be kind of the standard. So with this happening, and it's a big move, you can also expect Disney to respond. A lot of this just isn't all that shocking. It's just kind of, wow, we're here and this is going to happen. But I think Black Widow most definitely will be on D+, on the release date, and in some theaters, but primarily most people will probably see it on D+. So there you go. This also adds to what kind of films. Like Snyder Cut was supposed to be a film, and now it's a miniseries. Would you pursue that with these films? So, film ideas for the sequels for the MCU coming forward, and will they start thinking in terms of series? They already are, of course, but these were meant to be, like WandaVision and Winter Soldier and Falcon, that sort of thing. But now, maybe even you could think of like Spider-Man or Doctor Strange being a series. I don't know, but maybe not. I mean, most of them probably stay in the format of a 2-hour film. But it will be interesting to see of how you maneuver and mold the models here, because it's still kind of the Wild West. You don't quite know where it's going, but they got to got to hit the ground running. And the big problem is Snyder Cut has a lot of excitement and a built-in audience. It has an unfair burden on it, but it is what it is. But at the same time, I guess converting it to a miniseries and whatever the footage was, and then of course the lockdowns got in the middle of that, how long it takes. I haven't heard yet of an actual release date of when Snyder Cut debuts. But there was like a poster they put up and then pulled it down because it said something about September. And I'm like, good Lord, if it's all the way into September, no wonder they got to release all these films before then. Because, with Biden coming in, there's his advisors talking we need another 6 weeks of lockdown. If that's the pursuit of it, then although Biden himself says he's not on board with that yet or what have you, but if that's the case, and that usually means you can stretch that to 12 weeks or so. You just don't know. But even if all that lifts, they're still in the situation they're in. And so this isn't going to change. These movies will be on HBO Max upon their release. So I think the good news is because the concern primarily for Snyder Cut's burden that it bears for HBO Max can somewhat be alleviated by this extra content that they will now suddenly put out there. So that could work. The Hollywood Reporter article goes into details, and Toby Emmerich says, "Oh, it's going to work great and everything." No, there's some loss here for the theater, and he thinks it'll work for everybody. You just got to say that. But it's funny, at the end they asked him, well, how long did it take to get this decision to gain support from across the company? And it took a minute as a company. I mean, at this point, what are they going to object? Everything for Warner is HBO Max. They're focusing everything on it. And even without a lockdown, I think that would have been the case. With their parent company, AT&T, on down, and with the massive amount of debt accumulated from these entities, they're banking everything on that. It's got to work for them to pay off. So The only other thing that was kind of interesting is apparently their partners, such as Legendary, were not informed about this until, I guess, the rest of us found out. You should have called them at least. So, because there's other films they have companies they have deals with, and maybe those films will come out too. But anyway, you can always say, well, it's the lockdown and all that. But so there we go. Maybe this will help out the burden for Snyder Cut, and it won't, and we can have better chances of it expanding, depending on whatever it is, the numbers they are demanding of it. There's other content for people to go for and sign up, and so we can get more DCEU going forward, and perhaps Justice League 2 and 3 as per Snyder's plan. So, wow, interesting times, huh? Yeah. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.